Hello, everybody, all two of you. How are you doing today?
How are
So,
you doing today? Indeed, the two of you.
yeah, I like your orange top there, Evgeny. I don't think I've often seen. Is that orange or kind of burnt ochre?
It's the burnt orange, yes. And the reason why it's burnt is because it's very, very old.
Oh, that would be washed out rather than burnt, but
It is washed out.
hmm. Right. So, hello, the two of you. It's lovely to see you here. What we usually do is it takes people a while to appear. I have no idea if our ad campaign is working, by the way. You're going to have to talk to you about that later. But it generally takes people a little bit of time to appear. So, if you haven't already got a cup of tea, coffee, beer, wine, I guess it depends what part of the world you're in as to which one of those is more appropriate. You do have time, or a snack, you do have time to pop off and grab that now whilst we wait a couple of minutes for other people to appear. If you've decided that you are perfectly well refreshed and satiated and you're going to hang around, then can I ask you a big favor? And if you would be so kind as to just drop something in the comments for us so we know you can actually hear me wittering away, and that we don't have any technical issues that we would want to know about. So if you wouldn't mind, just someone drop in a comment and say, hi, Gigi, hi, Evgeny, how you doing? That type of thing would be super helpful. Whilst I try and get my second screen working as well. There we go. Okay. Right.
Is it working?
Yeah, I've now got both screens up. It looks like everything's streaming fine. YouTube says that we're live. So one
Excellent.
person, please just drop us a little hello, I can hear you type thing.
Yeah, it would be great if you
Otherwise,
could tell us if you can hear us and see us. I'm
I'm
also
starting to panic.
concerned of
I'm starting to
each time we
panic.
start. Yeah. I don't know if they are. There's
Okay,
four
hang on.
people.
There's four people. Surely one of you, maybe they all ran off to get a cup of tea whilst I. Okay, David's here. David says that he can hear us and the sound is all good. Um, Come on. Sorry, my son wants to come in and get something. So, hey, David, how are you doing? I think the other three people who have joined us so far have gone to get a cup of tea. Oh, right. So we've got, oh, I'm going to hash that name. Boligilia. I'm so sorry. I've ruined your name. Please forgive me.
Sounds like Boligila.
How would you pronounce it?
Boligila.
Boligila. Okay, cool. All right, so why don't we just get going, and whoever shows up, and whoever doesn't is clearly missing out on the live event of the century. So,
Indeed.
Evgeny, do you want to just start? And
Yeah.
it's your last name is first, and then your second name, right? Ah, that's better.
It's
Ashita.
a bit like
Ashita.
so it's
Right.
like with my wife. So because my wife's Tamil, their last names are their first names, and first names are their last names. But in the British passports, it's the other way around. It's complicated, but
Right.
anyway, she tried to explain it to me multiple times, but I still didn't get it. So apologies for that, guys.
Oh well.
But I should probably introduce what this is all about, right, Easy,
Please
before
do.
I step on any more international landmines here.
I think I did
So,
that wrong.
right, folks. So you are in the Day One Careers weekly Amazon interview coaching and Q&A event. So this is where you've got us here for an hour today, right, Gigi? Just correct me, just an
An
hour.
hour if we have enough people to fill the hour. So
And
we'll play it by
questions,
ear.
people, questions, because guess what? This event is all about questions. Your questions about interviews at Amazon. Now, our focus is everything that has to do with behavioral interviews at Amazon. So, unfortunately, even though we sometimes wish we were experts in system design and coding questions and all sorts of other functional questions for the millions of job families at Amazon, but we aren't. We both used to be marketers. So we will answer any questions that you have about behavioral interviews. But for technical / functional questions, there are other resources that will kind of serve you better. But if it's something burning, of course, drop it in. But just remember that we may sometimes say that, hey, sorry, we just don't have the expertise. The other bit of guidance before, I guess we also need to introduce ourselves, but let me just finish the housekeeping first. And that is we would ask you to keep your questions sort of mid-centered in terms of how specific you want to be. So if you go onto one extreme and just write something like, hey, I've got such and such interview for such and such role in next week, do you have any tips? Our answer usually tends to be, yes, we've got a whole YouTube channel and a blog and a website full of tips. So that's kind of what we tend to answer. On the other hand, if you go and say something along the lines of, I have this machine learning engineer interview in a particular country, and you ask us for something very specific to your interview process and your specific functional role, we may say that, hey, we don't have that expertise. But anything in between and with a focus on behavioral interviews, I'm pretty sure we can handle. So Gigi, do you want me to continue and just introduce myself and
Introduce
then you'll follow
yourself,
along?
and then we can get
Excellent.
going.
So Gigi and I are both co-founders of Day One Careers. So this is our interview preparation service, community, school, what have you. And we started Day One Careers because we both used to work at Amazon. And we were hiring managers, senior leaders, amongst other things. And Gigi will tell you all about it from her own perspective. But Gigi was also the bar raiser. So we've seen plenty of candidates come to us to interview. And speaking for myself, loads of candidates who have had amazing CVs or resumes, but because their interviewing skills were rusty and because behavioral interviewing clearly was new to them and they didn't prepare, they didn't manage to get the job. In fact, they oftentimes wouldn't even get through the first phone interview. So I started coaching candidates on the side while I was at Amazon. Then I went to Apple. I created Day One Careers as a brand, as a bit of a side gig, and then created some courses, and started seeing that actually, if you and the candidates invest time and effort into preparing in a systematic way, then for those who have outstanding resumes that Amazon is looking for, the outcomes do tend to improve. So I founded Day One Careers as a brand, and then discovered the amazing Gigi, and she discovered me. She was Amazon Interview Wiz at the time, and we decided to merge. And so we are together as Day One Careers.
Cool. Okay. So I think Yevgeny's said it, most of it about me, so I won't bore you too much longer. Ex-Amazonian, ex-bar raiser. Favorite part of my job at Amazon was the interview process. Set up the YouTube channel, which you'll notice has been going for quite some time now, whilst I was still bar raising, because I discovered that there was loads of dreadful advice out there on the web about how to do well in Amazon interviews. And I just purely started my YouTube to counteract that horrible advice. And then things just kind of went on from there. So without much ado, then, why don't we kick off with you guys, folks? I need to be careful the language that I use. You folks asking us any questions that you have about the Amazon interview process, salary negotiation, the leadership principles, how you repeating or not repeating questions, all of that type of jazz. We'll take any questions that you have. So hopefully you spent that time thinking about a question or two, and you can drop it down for us now. So all you need to do is put your question in the comment section on the right there, hit the return button, it'll pop up. Yevgeny and I will spot it, and then we will bring it onto the screen. So hopefully all of your little, what are they called? Are they icons? What's the little thing next to your name? Profile image.
Avatars.
Avatar. Let's call it
know.
avatar. Hopefully all your avatars are nice and clean and you wouldn't mind sharing them with the world in general. So yeah, pop on a question there. But Manish has just arrived. You like the YouTube channel. I am very pleased you like the YouTube channel. Sometimes I look at my videos and I realize I've forgotten to take some stuff off the shelves behind me. In my last set of videos, I realized there was tons of bits of string kind of just hanging around on the shelf. And I thought, oh my God,
I
people.
watched those videos and I
Yeah.
decided to do the same because I now have massive
And
mess
now you've got
behind me.
stuff behind you. You're so kind, trying to make me look like I'm not such a filthy person. But yeah, so most of you have seen the inside of my office anyway by now. So come on then. Any questions would be super helpful because we can't really run this session without questions. And I'm going to have to speak to Amazon. Sorry, I'm going to have to speak to Google Ads once again about our ads because they don't seem to be running, and I've spoken to them a couple of times. Okay, let's get this. Thank you, Rahul and Lena. You've got some questions there. So I'm going to pop Rahul's question up there. Lena, can you be a bit more specific with your question? What exactly do you want to know about the phone interview? Think about that whilst we answer Rahul's question. Do you want to pick this one up, Yevgeny?
Sure. Can we negotiate the salary during the interview? Yeah. So the short answer is you can negotiate your salary um, before the interview, during the interview, and after the interview. The only thing is that the way this usually goes at Amazon is there will be some questions about your salary expectations or your pay expectations. Right. Let's remember that at Amazon it's not just about salary. It's cash and stock. Right. Cash is salary, bonus, what have you, and RSUs, your stock. So you will have questions about compensation before your interview. You will probably not have any questions about your compensation throughout the interview process. And then at the end, assuming that you have secured a yes, let's hire this person in client vote, and there's a role to give you, it hasn't disappeared, and Amazon is moving towards the verbal offer stage, then this is yet another time, another period where you should, I'm not just going to say can, I'm going to say you should negotiate your salary. So whenever they are asking you to state your preferences or they indicate ranges, offers, always assume that this is one part of your negotiation process. But just remember that usually during your interviews, from your phone interview all the way to the end of your loop, you will not be talking about salary or compensation. Anything to add, Gigi?
Well, just as a simplifier for Rahul, it's just worth understanding who owns the negotiation process on the other side of the table. So from Amazon's point of view, hiring managers don't really get involved. In fact, they rarely get involved in talking about compensation, or if they do, it's not until they've all decided they want to hire you and then someone has to create an offer for you. So the only people that are really worth, at least initially, talking to about the compensation is the recruiter who has maybe approached you or you've approached them and they're contacting you, to Yevgeny's point, asking you about your expectations. And then once again, the recruiter at the end, once someone's made you an offer. It serves no purpose in the actual interview process to talk to any of the interviewers, even the hiring manager, about compensation, because they're not in a position to do anything about it at that point, or as a hiring manager, they're not the main negotiation point for the salary in the whole process. So if I were you, I would focus on, to Yevgeny's point, when someone asks you, giving the appropriate answer, but not investing any further time in trying to talk about compensation until someone asks you again.
Fair and
Okay,
square.
should we pop Rahul back in? Do you want to pick the next one whilst I'm just dropping Rahul back in?
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So let's talk to. Do you want to talk to Gemma, and then we're gonna go to Lena. So here's Gemma. I'll voice the question, and while I'm doing that, you may want to think about the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Tuesday indeed. And Gemma is curious that if she applies for more than 2 roles at Amazon and she's doing several interviews for one of them, would her other applications be considered at the same time?
Okay, so this answer isn't quite straightforward, as most of our answers aren't, because it's never straightforward, but here's how it goes. So if you are applying for 2 roles at Amazon that are very similar roles, for example, let's imagine that you are applying for a vendor manager role in home and garden, and you're also applying for a vendor manager role in pets. Those 2 teams can choose to smash those 2 kind of roles together from an interview process point of view and effectively split the interview process so that half of the people that are interviewing you are from one team and half of them are from another team. Now, that usually won't happen until you reach loop. You would have to get past the first couple of phone screens first. And then if they take you to loop, they might have a group loop. And then if they decide that you are a bar-raising candidate, they would then have a discussion about which of the two roles might suit you better, or if they want to just offer you both roles and have you choose. Equally, those teams don't necessarily have to do that. They could choose to keep them as two completely discrete processes. If you're applying for very different roles, for example, a senior marketing manager for I don't know, music and a product manager for Alexa, they will function as completely independent applications and ne'er the two will meet. They won't use the information gathered from one interview. If you imagine you're running kind of two parallel tracks with these different interviews, they won't use information from one interview to inform the other interview. It will be almost as if they don't exist. Now, at that point, it gets a little bit more complicated because you've got two recruiters keeping an eye on your progress across the other interview, and they'll end up having a dialogue with each other about, are you going to finish before us? Do you think you're likely to give this person an offer? There's less firm policy around the choices that are made at that point, but in the majority of cases, I would say your interview process will probably run independently of each other. Anything to add, Yevgeny?
Nope, everything was very detailed. I think we can move on to Lena's question now. So let me pop Lena's first part on the screen, and then I'll do the second part. So the first part is, can you talk about the phone interview? And then specifically, will they be asking questions about the role, or is it only going to be about the LP?
Okay.
So I'm happy to answer that one.
Yeah, you shoot.
The short answer is they can pretty much ask you questions regarding, are you functionally ready to do the role? So do you have the professional profile that fits the requirements? And ask you stuff like, walk me through your resume, tell me about yourself. Then they can also ask you motivational questions just to check, why are you actually having this interview and talking to them? So sometimes it sounds like, why Amazon, or why this team, or why do you want this job or now? And they can also ask you what you call the LP question. So they can ask you any behavioral interview questions that they see fit from whatever the LPs that they see fit. And then indeed is going to sound like, tell me about a time when you did X, Y, and Z. Depending on the team that you're interviewing with, they can also throw some functional challenges at you. So, for example, when I was a part of the devices team within Amazon, and I was looking after accessories, sometimes when the whole team would do phone screens for a role in my team, we would ask a question like, how would you work out a price of a new cover for a Kindle device? Just to test drive the applicant's mind and just see how you would approach this problem, to see how you think. So a phone screen from that perspective is less regimented and less predictable than a loop, because they can take any of these elements and they can put them together in whichever order that they want. So really, in terms of preparing for your phone interview, I would say brush up on why Amazon, brush up on walk me through your resume, tell me about yourself. And what I would also do is scrub or look through with detail through your job description and try to tease out the keywords that map to the leadership principles and their definitions. Because that if they are going to ask you a leadership principle question, it will quite likely be one of those LPs that are baked into the role, because it's very important for the hiring manager that you excel at those. Anything to add, Gigi?
Nope, nothing to add. That's perfect. Let's pop Lena back in. And David has a question here. So, do interviewers ask specific questions related to specific leadership principles, or is it up to us to answer what we see as the appropriate principles? Okay. Right. So, Your interviewers will ask a specific question associated with a specific leadership principle. They would have been assigned that leadership principle before they walked into as if I'm assuming they walk into the room with you, but of course they don't walk into the room with you anymore. It's a virtual room. So before the video opens up, they will have been assigned a leadership principle that they are expected to test you on. There is a list of questions, the Amazon interview question bank associated with each leadership principle, and the majority of interviewers will pick directly from the Amazon interview question bank for the leadership principle question they want to ask you. Some interviewers, very experienced ones, might kind of choose to adapt that particular question, and some interviewers for some reason will make up some of their own questions which they believe to be related to that leadership principle, but one way or another they have a specific leadership principle in mind. Sometimes the interviewer, well, let's go up the flow. Sometimes your recruiter will actually tell you what leadership principle someone is going to be testing you on. Those recruiters are rare and they are golden. So if you get one of those, thank them very, very, very much, because they're a rare beast. Sometimes in an interview, an interviewer will choose to tell you which leadership principle they're testing you on. In my experience, it's not the majority. It might be 20, maybe 30% of interviewers that will do that for you. Then you'll know what the leadership principle is. I don't recommend you asking them what the leadership principle is. That ends quite badly. I think I have a video coming out shortly about why that is. But generally, it's a bad idea because candidates tend to not actually answer the question. They focus more on the leadership principle example that they've prepared, and they forget that they're actually answering a specific question. But one way or another, someone will have a particular thing in mind that they are looking for you to talk to your behaviors on. The best suggestion we can give you is to write down the question. Try and look at the question and identify what is at the heart of it. There are only usually 2 or 3 words that really matter in any particular question. Identify those words, underline them, and then when you tell your story, focus the narrative on addressing the heart of that question. And if you can achieve that, you should by default find yourself talking about the types of behaviors that are associated with the leadership principle that they have just asked you the question about. Okay, that's it. Anything you'd add, Evgeny?
Nope. Very, very extensive indeed.
Okay.
Cool. Well, let's bring Legends of Dash on screen, and I guess in the chart of the coolest nicknames, this is
That's
sort
pretty
of kind of
good.
yeah, this is pretty good. Yeah, Legends of Dash.
And
Doesn't beat Ego My Lego, or is it Lego My Ego?
oh, I haven't seen Lego My Ego for a long time. Yes.
No, me neither.
There were a few others
But
actually that we had for a while, but yeah. But yeah, Dash, he's a legend. She's a legend. Whoever they are, they're a legend. I would love to
they're a
know
legend.
I might look up, see if Legends of Dash have got their own channel and see what's going on there, because
Exactly.
it sounds cool. Right, go on then.
And the
What's their
band.
question?
Right. Cool. So the Legends of Dash has the virtual interview next month, and the question is, what would you recommend the best thing to prep with? Let me think. Just kidding. So look, we're a little bit biased here, right? But the last 3 years we've spent hammering out at creating the best, what we think is the best available suite of prep resources for you. So if you are on a budget and literally have nothing to invest, then our YouTube channel is probably what you want to stick with. Now, it's not because we don't want you to go around. There's plenty of interview advice around on YouTube, but unfortunately, some of this advice is absolutely ridiculous, and it will actually do you more harm than good. I'll give you an example. There are some folks out there who are still saying that the length of the response to a behavioral interview question at Amazon should be 2 minutes. Why? Because, surprise, surprise, the interviewer otherwise gets bored or something like that. So all of that stuff is utter rubbish. So if you are on a budget, just stick with our YouTube channel, and that's pretty much that'll set you up as far as it goes when it comes to pre-prep. If you do have an availability for some investment, we would recommend Amazon Interview Wiz Complete. It's your one-stop shop for absolutely everything you need to prepare for your behavioral interviews at Amazon. Read the testimonials. They're all being pulled live from our database, so it's all there exactly as they were written. I think that's probably going to be the best source of interview prep for you. Anything you would add, Gigi?
So Legends of Dash, we're going to give you a freebie at the end. So if you want to get a taster of our course without spending a penny, just hang around till the end and you can get hold of that. In terms of the YouTube channel, if you want to dig into the YouTube channel, there is a video on the YouTube channel, which is, I think it's preparation in 10 steps. That's a really good place to start. There's other content on the channel, which you will then kind of expand from in those 10 steps. But that's certainly kind of the best kind of structured approach video we have there on the channel. And I think it's our top video. It's very popular. So I'm proud of that one.
We've got
Okay.
options for you, Legends of Dash, all sorts of options.
There's always options. Right, let's pop Legends of Dash. And that's like an anime cartoon or something like that. Just sounds so cool.
The
I'm
giant
jealous.
axe.
Right. What do we have? Should we have a look at Peach?
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Right. This should be a relatively simple answer. So you've been in touch with a recruiter every couple of days, but haven't been able to schedule to interview time for 3 weeks. So you've been trying to contact your recruiter for 3 weeks to schedule an interview. They said the interview team was busy. I had to resubmit new times. Okay, so your recruiter is struggling to get a date. And I assume it's a loop because if they're struggling, then it's usually loops that they struggle for. Still waiting, normal question mark. Right. So is it normal to wait 3 weeks? Well, I have no empirical data for you that I can share in terms of on average how long it takes to organize a loop or any type of interview. I'm not sure that's actually reported, or if it is, it's reported at a very, very senior level in Amazon HR and not much beyond. So I can't tell you whether that time frame is normal. Is it normal for it to be a nightmare to try and pin down multiple people to be in a particular place at a particular time? Yes, that is very normal, that it is hard. Recruiters or recruitment coordinators' jobs are complete nightmares because they're trying to pin these people down who have incredibly busy diaries or schedules or whatever you call them in your local language. So I would just say, keep going, don't give up, keep hammering the recruiter, but I'm pretty confident that your recruiter is doing the very best that they can on their side. There's not much else you or they can do. The only thing that might kind of help grease the wheels a little bit is if you are interviewing elsewhere, and you might just want to drop that information in with your recruiter to let them know that you have other interviews and when the other interviews are coming up, and that you would love Amazon and they would be your absolute first choice, but you're going to keep progressing with these other interviews. And then you can keep them posted on your timeline. I've had the interview, it went really well. I'm hoping to hear back by X time. I've heard back and they've given me an offer. Amazon is still what I'd be really interested in. Obviously, don't lie. This all kind of needs to be the truth. Otherwise, you can get yourself twisted in knots. But that's really the only leverage that you have if you want to grease the wheels a bit, is in terms of whether you actually have some other balls at play at the time. Anything else you'd add, Evgeny?
No, very, very detailed.
Okay.
So I guess we can
move
to Van Data. Van Data. This is the new Van Damme.
I was going to say, this is like Van Damme for 2023, right?
Yes, in the world of business analytics and machine learning. But let's look at the question. So what is the best way to explain the leadership principles with our experience and work? Any healthy practice to do the same. So, I mean, there's loads and loads of advice that we can give you. So I'll give you the one that's most appropriate here so that I don't consume the entire time of our YouTube live, and that is data and impact. So Amazon hires for impact. Google it, right? There's plenty of articles written about in a way that Amazon is so different from other tech businesses even when they're hiring technical talent, they're always looking for impact. They're always looking for evidence that you managed to deliver something for something that's bigger than yourself, like your team, your department, your company, anything like that. So that's impact. And the second thing is data, because when you are interviewing with Amazon, um, what happens is your interviewer is looking for evidence that you've actually done something in the past that they found valuable. And anything you can say to them, you can throw all sorts of adjectives at them. I've achieved tremendous results, outstanding results, and it will all mean absolutely zero to Amazon unless there is some data that demonstrates exactly what you've done. So make sure you do find time in your storytelling to talk about the impact. And when you do talk about impact, make sure you use data to justify that impact. So that would be my top advice. Gigi, anything you would add?
I suppose you explain the leadership principles with habits and behavior. No, as you say, nothing that wouldn't take us take this whole session to explain. So Van Data, I'm going to say the same thing to you, which is wait around till the end for the free course, because actually the free course pretty much explains the answer to this question and shows you how you could do that with specifically the customer obsession leadership principle. So hang around and take that course, and that will be very detailed in terms of your understanding. So let's pop Van Data back. Yevgeny, I was just having a look at Lena's question. So I'm just going to pop that up briefly because actually I'm going to ask Lena once again to provide a little bit more clarity about what they are asking, but I'm going to pop it up here. Can you give some examples of data-driven questions? Now, Lena, I'm not entirely clear what you mean by data-driven questions and what is motivating you to ask us to give you examples of data-driven questions, because I suspect you might have slightly misunderstood something. So, Lena, I'm going to ask you to provide us a little bit more context as to why you're asking us for that example, and then I think it might help us answer your question more appropriately.
We'll get back to you. Just
Yeah,
clarify your
just
question.
clarify it and we'll pick
We'll
it
get
back
back
up.
to you.
All right, let's pop down.
And there's a follow up there from Rajul.
Okay, let's pop it up. If the position is already taken, can I be evaluated for a different role or do I need to reapply? Okay. Do you wanna go for that one, Yevgeny, or do you want me
I
to?
mean,
So I think there's some
it's a bit,
nuances in this.
there are some nuances in there, and it depends. I guess it depends on at what time do you discover that the position is no longer available. Because
Yeah,
I'll
and
give
that
you. Uh-huh.
yeah. So if the position is already taken, your application ends for that role. The recruiter will no longer consider you for the role and they will come back to you and say the role has been filled. In the background, if you're a really strong candidate and that recruiter is aware of, or the hiring manager is aware of another role that they feel that you would be a good fit for, behind the curtain, they might hand I live in this kind of very kind of real world where people are handing pieces of paper to each other. That clearly doesn't happen. It's a metaphor. They will pass your details and your resume over to whoever else it is that is hiring for that role. What they won't do is actively seek out other roles to pass your application over to. They would simply close down your application and tell you, we're very sorry, the role has been hired for. However, your profile will still exist in the Amazon ATS, and other recruiters who are looking to fill roles, their first port of call is to dig into the ATS. They'll query it for particular skills or experience. Their first port of call is to dig into the ATS and see if they can find any candidates that have applied for other positions but not been hired within previously in Amazon. And they might pick out your resume and contact you and ask you if you would be interested in applying for that particular role. For everything else, but you'll have to reapply for all of them, by the way. Sorry, just finishing off the end of that statement there. Will you need to reapply? Yes, you would almost always find yourself going back to the beginning of the process. There are rare occasions where you might be allowed to go straight to Loop for an alternative role, but only if that alternative role is pretty much exactly the same role as you were just interviewing for. So if you imagine a team might be hiring 3 software development engineers to work on the same team, you were applying for one of those roles, that role got filled, then they could just swap you onto the requisition for the other role, which is exactly the same role but just sits under a different job title. Then you would be allowed to go straight to Loop. But in any other circumstances, you'd have to start all over again.
Should we address situations where they pre-clear folks? So, and then that is the eventuality where someone's loop was already scheduled, but someone who was going behind them managed to get the offer, but they still made a decision to interview the candidate, and then it's the inclined loop but no offer situation. So we've had a few things, a few candidates in our community that basically said to us, past the loop, the recruiter called, said they couldn't offer me the role because they offered it to someone else, but you're fit for Amazon.
Yeah, I guess in that case, okay, in that case, the possibility exists that you might be passed over to a hiring manager, and you could have just a one-on-one conversation with a hiring manager who might choose to make you an offer because, to Yevgeny's point, a bar raiser has already said, I think they're fine to hire as an L6 product manager, but that role went. So yeah, Yevgeny's right. That's the one other instance where you could be effectively not necessary to go through the whole process again.
There you go. I think come to Day One Careers YouTube Lives for very extensive answers, Raju. Hopefully that was all bases covered there for you. So shall we move to? Shall we do our?
Oh, we do our break
do.
in the middle. Yes, good point. Okay. So, folks, so as I said to you at the beginning, the reason why I started this channel because I wanted to get rid of some horrible disinformation that was out there. But in order to do that, obviously our content needs to be visible to candidates looking for Amazon interview preparation content. For it to be visible, we need it to have high engagement rates. Engagement rates means people commenting on the videos and people liking our content. So I'm going to very briefly ask you to please just give this stream just a little like so it boosts it in the algorithm. I think Yevgeny says for every single like, it equates to something like 10 people getting to view the content. So if you want to help 10 people get awesome content and not be side swindled by people who don't know what they're talking about, please give us a thumbs up. And to give you an opportunity to do that, I have created some fun little videos to pass the time whilst you're clicking the thumbs up. So you might need to take your earphones off you. These came out a little bit loud, but hopefully they're a little bit of fun. I need to pick the one that has Yevgeny in it because I keep picking the ones that he's not in. So here we go. Okay, please like the stream.
Please like the stream now. Please like the stream now. Please like the stream now. Please like the stream. 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 Like the stream.
It's the point where we usually lose a few people at this point.
Yeah, folks usually leave when when we play
I
them.
know at the end. All right. So folks, please, if you wouldn't mind, and any of our videos that you watch, if you could like them, you'll be helping out some other person who's trying to land themselves a job. All right, so let's pick another one. Should we pick Manish there?
Yeah, let's pick Manish. So I can read. So beyond a story's framework, what makes it truly stand out? Is it the profoundness of the impact, the intricacy of obstacles faced, or the depth of understanding of the emotional appeal it
Well, I think we can
offers?
discount one of those.
Well, I guess you were referring to the emotional appeal, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw in a little nuance there. So emotions work on everyone, right? But in order for you to elicit the emotional appeal of your story in an Amazonian interview, you have to do all this other stuff that you mentioned. So,
Yes, and
and
that's
we're
why
going
I
to
was saying
focus on that
discount
stuff.
it. There's the emotional appeal in terms of the content of the story versus the emotional appeal of the nature of the story and how you deliver it. So
Hmm.
no one really cares kind of the emotional, how you felt and the emotions you elicited from the, actual story itself on the company at the time. It's the impact of that overall thing that I think Yevgeny's referring to. So sorry, you go on, Yevgeny.
No. That's that was kind of my intro, but I don't know. We can take this one apart because I think there's a couple of questions baked into here. Um, so the question is, is the profoundness of impact, does it make it truly stand out? If anything, that's probably, I'm not going to say it's the top thing, but it's out there with what must stand out. Again, Amazon is a company that hires for the impact that you deliver on the business. It is an entry ticket to actually your story to be considered seriously. Like, I don't understand, and I can't imagine how a hiring manager would be able to rate anyone anywhere closer to where they need to get if you were unable to talk about the impact that you've delivered. And obviously, the more profound the impact, the better. But the only thing that I would say is, and this is a caveat, so Amazon hires for walks of life. And oftentimes, for exactly the same role, you're going to have candidates who is coming from a small startup versus a candidate who's coming from a big corporate. And obviously, if you think about the impact, folks who come from big corporates, they'll be able to quote bigger numbers. So Amazon will obviously assess the impact that you delivered within the world where you operated, which is why when you do talk about impact, a very useful device for you to use is percentages, because the minute you use percentages, you are effectively leveling the playing field between yourself and some other person who might have come from a big corporate who has just bigger absolute numbers to share. So impact definitely will help you stand out. The intricacy of obstacles faced, so that would be the complexity of the problems that you solve. Yes, that'll help you stand out. Again, Amazon is a big tech business. It's a complex business, very complex business. And they're not looking forward to create more complexity by hiring you. So they're looking, in fact, for the opposite. So the more complexity in your product, in your problem solving that you can, in your problems that you can demonstrate, the better. The only thing is, don't overcomplicate the narrative, right? So they love simple narratives about how you are solving complex problems. And then the depth of understanding. So the depth of understanding, I don't know about this one. Gigi, what do you think? Because this one is a bit this one is tripping me up a bit.
It's a little bit obtuse in terms of what it actually means. I think we can all understand easily what profoundness of impact and intricacy of obstacles means, but
Yeah, I
depth
took the
of
easy ones. Sorry.
understanding, I think that's a little bit obtuse. But I think more, I think overall, it's all of them. The way you framed it, Manish, was as if it was an or, and it's all of them, because in order to be considered bar raising, you have to demonstrate that you have had a significant impact on your previous employer, that the obstacles that you faced were complex and challenging, etc., etc. So you can't lean into one or the other. The thing that really makes you stand out is if you show these things consistently. If every single story you tell has very high impact, if every single story you tell is complicated and full of challenges and obstacles, if every single story you tell, you are operating with people at a higher level than we would expect you, we, as if I still work there, they would expect you to be working with. If you tell that story after story after story after story, that's the thing that makes candidates stand out, because that's what Amazon's looking for, people who consistently perform at a very high level.
Indeed.
Okay.
Well explained.
Drop Manish back. Oh,
And
this one, I think that's quite should be relatively quick to answer that one.
yeah, so this one is about, what's the maximum time period which can be given by Amazon to join the organization after you are given the job offer? Well, I don't know, Gigi. My response to that is it depends. Depends
exactly. That's why I said it'd be easy to answer, because it's depends answer.
It's a Venn diagram, right? So we could have like multiple. It's not Venns, right? Venn is the inventor. Anyway, multiple circles. Yeah. So one circle is how desperate Amazon is to fill the role. The other one is how quickly can you join, as in how quickly can you join legally, right? Because if you're in the UK or in the continental European Union, you might have to work for, I don't know, a month, 3 months, 6 months, depending on what sort of notice period is in your contract. And then the third one is how quickly do you want to join, right? So marry up all these three little circles, and somewhere in the beginning there will be that little point that you need to negotiate with Amazon. And I think that's it.
Yeah, there's no policy that says the maximum time is X, because it's a global company, so they couldn't possibly do that, because business norms are different globally, and business norms are different at different levels of seniority. So it's just something you have to discuss with your recruiter, and sometimes your hiring manager. Actually, it tends to be more of a hiring manager discussion if you want to do anything that's outside the standard. So here, someone would fully expect me to take 3 months. That would be the norm for me to join an organization. If the hiring manager wanted me to join anytime faster than that, they'd pick up the phone and call me and try and convince me and find out whether my company would let me go any earlier, because it's quite a high level, serious conversation to be had. All right, should we drop that person back in? I think we have one question from Gemma. Folks, if you have more questions, just kind of throw them at us. We've still got 13 odd minutes left, so we're happy to stay for that long. Equally, if we run out of questions, we'll head off and go and get our dinner. Right, what's this one?
This one is, so Gemma says she had 3 interviews of the panel yesterday and 1 interview later. Okay. Can she assume that the leadership principles that were asked yesterday won't be asked again today? So I thought the previous one was easy one. It's this one. This is the easy one, I think.
It's even easier.
Yeah. So the answer is yes, you can. Although, just don't freak out, okay, Gemma? But in the last session that we did, there was someone, I think, who said to us, it was the last one. There was some person, was very unfortunate and unlucky, who said that during the panel, the loop that you're referring to, someone actually went ahead and asked exactly the same questions about exactly the same leadership principle that someone else during the loop. And so that confused the candidate quite a lot. And then Amazon ended up going back to this candidate and saying, hey, sorry, we made a mistake during the interview. Can you go and interview with this other person again, because we need to re-interview you on on a different leadership principle. Now, this is the last time that I've heard about it. So in 99.9% of cases, you can expect that there will be no gaps and no, did I say no gaps? No, there will be gaps. There won't be any overlaps between leadership principles across your panel interview. Anything you'd add?
Nope, that's it. Good luck, Gemma. Come back and let us know. Gemma. Right, and we got Legends of Dash again. So let's pop Legends of Dash.
It's Legends of Dash Part 2, the return.
I feel I should call them LOD.
Yes.
How much weight does Amazon give to referrals on the overall interview process, or is it the same process? So I'll pick this one up. So there are effectively 2 different types of referrals. There is a referral where you've just reached out to someone on LinkedIn. They haven't got a clue who you are, but they work in Amazon, and they just throw your name in the pot for that particular job. I don't know. Is there a specific term for that type of referral, Evgeny? I can't remember.
So there's the network referral,
which is the one I've just described, I think.
And then there is a personal referral, as in you vouch for the individual, you know them.
Okay, so we just talked about the network referral. The network referral doesn't necessarily have much more weight. I mean, any referral goes through a particular pipeline. It's flagged in Hire for the hiring manager to prioritize looking at that resume. So it will get your resume to the hiring manager. It will effectively bypass the recruiter. But that's it. It doesn't really have any benefit whatsoever beyond getting your resume straight to the hiring manager. The personal referral is where someone actually knows you and they've worked with you in the past and they can vouch for you. And they, based on their experience of you and their knowledge of you, believe genuinely that you would do a good job in this particular role. They submit the resume through kind of more or less the same process. It will bypass the recruiter and go straight to the hiring manager. But you would then also have that referrer, your personal referrer, contacting the hiring manager directly and saying, hi, I've worked with Gigi before. She's incredibly funny, gorgeous, and talented, and she'd be amazing at this job. You really should speak to her. It's the combination of, well, it is the fact that that person genuinely knows you, which is going to give you a little bit more of an edge when your hiring manager looks at the resume. Just because it's a personal referral means nothing in terms of any obligation from the hiring manager to meet you and actually interview you, but just knowing that someone else who understands Amazon and understands you believes that you could be a good candidate for the role inevitably creates greater confidence in the hiring manager that you're worth talking to. And you'd be amazed, I guess, the forgiveness that hiring managers will make in terms of resumes if they have a personal recommendation to go with. Once you get to the first interview, if you get to the first interview, that's it. There's no other benefit whatsoever from a referral. You just become like everybody else. So in summary, the only benefit of referrals really is to get your resume bypass the recruiter and to the hiring manager. And if it's a personal kind of referral, to grease the wheels with the hiring manager a little bit more in terms of the potential that you have to be a strong candidate. Anything to add?
Nothing to add. Nothing
Right.
to add. Nothing to
All
add.
right. I think we got one more here from
Well,
Makar.
it's either Wakar
Yes.
or Anwar, right? So it really depends on which
Oh,
one's your first name, which
okay.
one's your last name.
Yes. Okay. When we could get horribly confused with this. So either way, we can answer the question quite easily.
Yes. What if in the Amazon job portal your application status is under consideration? Well, again, Gigi, I don't know if you know anything more than me, but it basically means exactly what it means. It's under consideration. They haven't reached a decision on your application just yet.
Yeah. So what it would just mean is that the recruiter has actually picked you out of the system and had a look at your resume and they're thinking about it. It's as simple as that. So when you make your initial submission, I think you'll get something like pending or something like that. And then once the recruiter actually kind of pulls you down out of the system, it will flip to under consideration. And then either the recruiter will call you because you'll be under consideration all the way through the process until you either get an offer or you fall out, you get a not inclined, or you will quickly turn from under consideration into no longer being considered. I think that's the status if the recruiter looks at your resume and decides that it's not the one for the job. So under consideration is a status for people who are at all sorts of different stages in the Amazon interview process. It has no specific meaning other than you are either at the beginning, the middle, or coming to the end. All right. So I think that's all the questions that we have. So we have a few minutes left, but if no one has any questions, then I might nip off and go and get my dinner because I'm starving. But before everyone goes, I said we were going to give you a freebie. And really, we have a great freebie to give you. It's not one of those usual kind of giveaways that is actually people just talking and offering no information that's of any use whatsoever. I'm on this side this week, so I will do it. So you need to go to this URL. And at the end of this URL, thank you, you're going to finish it off. At the end of this URL is our free customer obsession course. As you know, Amazon has the 16 leadership principle. Customer obsession is the one that we all know and love and is at the heart of Amazon. This course shows you exactly what customer obsession is all about. It breaks down the leadership principle into its 4 component parts. Customer obsession has different facets to it. We have codified those different facets, and this course will explain that codification to you, explain what the different facets are, and take you through exactly what the interviewer is looking for if they ask you a customer obsession question, and it will help inspire you and trigger your memory in terms of the types of examples that you might be able to pull out from your career history that meet customer obsession. So seriously, go take it. It's totally free. Everyone will benefit from it. It also gives you access to our community where you can come and join us and you can ask questions of us. You can talk to other people in the community, arrange mock interviews with kind of peers and other people going through the interview process, get people's thoughts, advice, etc., etc. So it's totally free and it comes with all sorts of benefits that I don't think you'd get anywhere else, quite frankly. So with that said, I think we're now done. So thank you everyone for joining. I really, really appreciate it. One final question I will ask before you all run off, because you'll really help me out here, is we have an ad campaign running to promote this session, and I can't see any data from Amazon ads as to whether this the ad campaign is actually going out. So can anyone tell me how you found out about this session? Did you see an ad or did you just see it pop up as a live event that was starting? Any of you that are still, well, there's quite a few of you still here, just quickly bang out, I saw an ad or I didn't see an ad, and then I can let Google know whether I did actually, my ad is live or not, because they're telling me it is and I can't see any data.
Yes, it would be really good if you would tell us, folks. It will help us a lot.
It will help me massively because I spent 2 hours complaining to them on the phone the other day that the ad wasn't working, and they were telling me it does work, but the data takes 14 days to flow through, and it's been more than 14 days. So anybody, and it doesn't look like anybody did anybody see the ad campaign? Right, no, so Raul just did a search himself, saw it on the community post. Thank you, Legends of Dash. All right, this is not looking good for my ad campaign. Oh, it's so annoying. 1 hour notice of upcoming event. Thank you, David. Right, I can tell Amazon ads that I've got actual evidence that it's not up. Anybody else?
Yep.
Anybody else? Nobody's saying, yeah, I saw that ad, Gigi, and you were fantastic. You were so engaging and dynamic. I couldn't wait to be here. Okay.
It sounds like folks just didn't have anything better to do.
That's so unkind. All right, it looks like no one saw any ads, so I'll get on to Google Ads and see if I can come up with something. I don't know. Lena was just lucky. You are lucky, Lena, that you found us. Honestly, we have the best channel on YouTube. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. We have the best Amazon YouTube channel. I come across people in all sorts of different places, and I hide in the background and watch people talking to each other about content. And if ever they say our channel is great, which most of the time they do, I then go, hi, here I am, it's me. Anyway, moving on then. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll be here again next week. If you have any other questions, just pop onto the appropriate video on the YouTube channel, drop your question in, and I'm always there answering questions. Like 4 o'clock in the morning, I don't sleep very well anymore, thanks to the old menopause. So pretty much any hour of the day, too much sharing, hey?
I've been working with her for the last 2.5 years, and I'm still discovering new things on these YouTube lives, people. So.
I'm a bit free with my information. I'll be there to answer your questions, everybody. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Yevgeny, for taking the time. And
thank you, guys.
We'll hopefully see you all next week. Good luck if you have an interview coming up. We have our fingers very firmly crossed for you.
Good luck, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.